Good, good. So yes, hello everyone. We are live. How are you doing? How was the weekend? I guess that most of you actually took like your Friday off. I know Kim, you didn't because you had this presentation.
Yes.
But maybe it was a super, super long weekend for a few of you. So I hope you enjoyed it. Uh, it was not a long weekend in Barcelona. That's a shame. I would have loved to have a long weekend actually.
And Germany was awesome. We had great weather. A golden autumn, lots of sunshine. Very,
Yeah.
very beautiful.
Yeah, I guess you have autumn that comes early in Germany. We usually start to see some
Mhm.
nice colors around end of November here. So yeah, it doesn't, leave a lot of room for nice autumn activity. That's a shame.
Then we have more winter when it comes to November.
This is nice also. Okay, I see lots of people are still connecting, so that is great. We're gonna still wait for maybe 1 or 2 minutes, just to give everyone the time to connect, and we'll be starting. So good stuff. As you can see, it's actually gray today in Barcelona. So for the ones that are in Germany, as Kim just told me that yeah, I think you have sunny weather. You lucky.
Yes. Yeah, it's
I'm
brilliant.
happy for you. I'm happy for you. So
Thank you.
sometimes it's like that. It's always better. So as you can see, you have through Zoom a a space to actually chat. I can actually put here everyone, and I'm gonna put hello. So you can use that if you want to, comment on something, for instance. And you also have a module where you have like Q&A. It's like basically the center where you can leave your questions that we will answer by the end of this webinar. And otherwise, no, nothing else. Okay, so we can kick off. So, Kim, thank you for joining this webinar, for co-organizing this webinar. This is great to have you
Mhm.
today. As a small introduction, so yeah, I actually met Hendrik. I think it was in London for INMA World Congress, and we started to chat, and we realized that basically we were doing exactly the same thing, but with different tool, different approach. And we thought, hey, it might be good, like to collaborate more, because Highberg with Drive initiatives, you are already helping, I don't know, maybe more than 30 different
Yes,
publishers, I
30.
think.
It
Yeah.
is.
So this is great. So I'm super happy, super thrilled that you'll be explaining all of that today on the methodology you're implementing, on what you're doing for newsroom transformation, and basically how do you cope with Ghost alongside with Newsroom. I think it's going to be super interesting. Just for the ones that do not know me, I am Vincent. I work at Marfeel. Marfeel is an analytics platform, basically for publishers. Only more than 250 publishers already work on Marfeel, and I'll be explaining you after Kim's presentation a little bit what's the typical workflow of publishers to deal with ghost articles, to basically complement a little bit like what Kim is going to present you. So for me, it's good. I'm gonna ask you one questions before leaving the floor to Kim. I'm gonna use actually a poll. So maybe I'm going to launch it. So you should be able to see something on the screen right now. So according to you, okay, before this presentation, what's the percentage of articles you produce that are completely ignored by your audience, so that basically have no impact on your business whatsoever? The typical article that are not, have no page views, no ads impression, that do not drive any subscription, nothing at all. Okay. So I can see lots of difference. I have a few, I have no idea. I love it. Less than 25. Okay. So I have a bit of everything. I guess that, the one with less than 25% are probably already working with you, Kim, I guess.
Yeah, maybe.
Wow. Okay. This is good. So yeah. Fantastic audience, a bit of everything. So I'm sure that for some of you, it's going to be a good reminder. Probably some good insights from my part. And for the other ones, you're going to love that presentation, especially the ones that are saying like over 75. Don't worry, you are not alone. Okay. I'm quite used to that. So I'm going to end that poll right now. I can actually share the results if you want. And Kim, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. For the person who don't know me yet, my name is Kim. I'm a senior consultant at Highberg, and Highberg is a management consultancy company that consists of several hubs. And our hub is based in Hamburg and specialized on management consulting and data consulting in the media and publishing industry. And one of our biggest projects, Vincent just told or directly, is Drive. This is a collaboration of 30 regional publishers with almost 800 participants. So it's a very huge data project. And it's all about digital transformation for regional publishers. And there we collect a vast amount of data for those publishers. We analyze it and also think together how we can learn from this data. And since it's spooky season, I want to give you some practical insights from our Drive project and real tips how we deal with ghost articles. Let's get into the topic. So we analyzed how content is managed in the newsroom and how much capacity is actually available for content. And what you see here is quite a big picture because it's 80% of the articles are ghost articles. And ghost articles is an article that hasn't managed to accumulate a total of 5 hours media time. We said this because a journalist takes about 5 hours to write an article. And if an article doesn't bring up this amount of attention, we call it's a ghost article. But of course, this can vary from publisher to publisher, but it's our benchmark. And since 80% of those articles fall in this category, we have here a huge problem. But what's even worse is here the middle part. And at our Drive project, we're mainly focusing on generating subscriptions. But the reality shows us that 90% of the plus articles do not generate any single subscription. So they just disappear and die behind the paywall without providing any value. But we also have here a silver lining. When we look at those top articles, we see that 5% of the published articles account for 50% of the total reading time. So this means we have here some outstanding articles, and those articles have something in common because they meet exactly the user need. So what the reader is really truly interested in. And this shows up that the editorial output has to change. So we have to work more purposefully and also more data-driven to achieve those successes more often. And now is the question how those editorial output can be changed. And as part of Drive, we developed this newsroom framework. And this is a roadmap for a future-proven newsroom, and it has 8 action areas. And each of those action areas, we have specific measures and also best practices that provides real value for the newsroom. And together with our clients, we create an individual transformation path in those areas, which is tailored to their specific needs. But today, I just want to focus on 3 action areas, which helps us to reduce ghost articles, which is content strategy. This is user need oriented. We have distribution. This focuses on personalization. And we have artificial intelligence. We will start directly with the user needs. What are user needs? At its core, it's more about moving away from just delivering news towards stories that inspire, that contextualize or explain and entertain. And we classify articles based on specific user needs. And this makes a very huge difference because with our clients, we found out that editorial teams often put a lot of effort in content that hardly generates any engagement. And when we look into the data, we see here also a clear difference in the distribution of the user needs when it comes to strong articles. And those strong articles are the top 5 top articles that are responsible of 50% of the reading time I just told you. And when we look into the chart, we see here the average engagement and the amount of article. And where the engagement is low, we have here a high number of article. And if we zoom in and look closer, we see that many articles are produced for the user need update me. So which are just short information and states what happened. So publishers often take one easy way and rely on those update me pieces because they are easy and fast to produce. But we have also examples where this proportion of update me is about 80%. And when we look here to the strong articles, we see here a different distribution when it comes to the user needs. We have here more inspire me, more give me perspective, and educate me, which are much more in common. And this is the type of content that actually really works. And by knowing this in editorial planning meetings, you should say, hey, let's do less update me and invest more time in valuable user needs. So for example, instead of just reflexively writing an update me piece, we could turn this topic into a thematic journey. We could write a story from the perspective of a specific person from the region. We could provide background information or write an opinion piece. Doing this, we get much more performance out of this topic. And that's the logic behind those user needs. So less update me and more valuable content. And those user needs are not only needed for those top articles, but also for ghost articles. What you can see here is in the graph, the light blue are ghost articles and the dark blue, the no ghost articles. And those ghost articles I just mentioned, they differ greatly between those user needs. But what you can see is here very clear. Articles that are not produced based on a specific user need have a high likelihood to become a ghost article. So they end up somewhere in the digital nowhere. So by knowing this, you should say in the planning phase, hey, I want to write an article that address the user need inspire me, then the chances are much higher that this won't be a ghost article. So it definitely makes sense to allocate those resources to targeted content rather than just producing a random article without knowing what need they are supposed to address. Because if that's unclear, the chance is very high that this simply won't perform. And yeah, that's actually what user needs are so important, and you should integrate it into your system. You should align it with your editorial output, and then you can reduce the number of ghost articles and also can increase the content performance. Now I want to show you some results because in Drive we have those individual transformation process, and we also did that with the user needs. And here's one example from one client. But currently 20% of the publishers are using the user needs. And what you can see here in the result, it illustrates how the proportion of the ghost article is developed from the start from the sprint until the end of the sprint. And this was a huge success. So this is just one result from one client, but on average, we were able to reduce the proportion of ghost articles across all publishers by 20%. That was a very good and big step forward if you consider how much effort had previously gone into articles or content that received little attention. So right now we know the content that people want to see, and now it's time to increase its visibility. So here we talk about personalization. We found out that most people go directly to the homepage. So all overview pages, all local sub-pages, they get overlooked and they are just seen by a few people. So here we have, as a result, of course, ghost articles. And that's why it's so important to personalize the homepage, that this really looks different for each person. And if an article is just appearing on the overview page, it ends up as a ghost article and no one is seeing it. On top of that, our data shows that after the 10th article listed on a page, almost 50% of the user drop off. So they just scroll twice and they're gone. So those are articles that are never come into the view. So it makes really clear that by personalizing the first 10 articles is extremely important. And at Drive, we use various personalization strategies. And today I want to focus just on those who have an reducing effect on the number of ghost articles. The first one is geo-personalization. So an article is assigned a coordinate and we measure the distance between those articles. For example, if Vincent recently read an article about the city Ulm, we also suggest an article which is related to Ulm. And this has a really positive effect because if that article may not perform as well, its geographical relevance increases the chance to be seen. Just because it deals with a familiar city, then we can reduce the number of ghost articles. Then we have another strategy, it's called topic ban. For example, if a user has already seen 7 articles about soccer, then the topic soccer is temporarily paused and the next article cannot be from the same topic area. So we create more diversity in those suggestions. And another strategy is the random personalization. And here our goal is to suggest so-called niche articles that are just interesting for a fewer people and often don't get the attention they deserve because they don't appear among the top articles. And these articles will never make it into the homepage because they are unnoticed by the users. But through those targeted personalization, we can connect the right audience with the right niche article with both geographically and thematically and pull them out of those ghost zones. And of course, I also want to show you here some results. We have results when it comes to geo-personalization. Our test showed us that the media time increased by 13% and the click-through rate by 71% compared to editorial recommendations. And another interesting part we are actually working on is combining those strategies, because in reality, to use a mix of different personalization strategies, whether it's based on geodata, for example, or on topic. So it's not necessarily needed to strictly just follow one strategy. And by combining the strengths of each strategy, we can deliver tailored content that really resonates. This is something we are working right now on. Further, it's also important to say that ghost articles cannot always be avoided and are sometimes also wanted because they contribute to a large volume of content. But for sure, the goal is to create high quality pieces that perform better and don't end up in those ghost categories. And to achieve this, we need resources which we are often lacking today. And one way to create capacity is to automate the article creation for simpler content that tends to become a ghost article. And for this, we have the tool Drive Local. So publishers receive an email, from example, from a city or from a club requesting an article to be published. And then these emails are forwarded to Drive Local, which then produce an article automatically based on that. But this tends to increase the number of ghost articles on the one hand, but on the other hand, it creates space and also capacity in the newsroom to produce high quality content, like, for example, an Inspire Me. Another tool we have is the Drive Coach, and this is crucial for reducing ghost articles because it's a feedback tool. It aims to improve the quality of an article. It helps when it comes to assign the right user needs for the formatting. How should the article, for example, be structured? How can the format be standardized? And if there is something wrong with the format, the coach can point it out to the journalist, and so can the article's presentation be better. It also helps for content and SEO optimization. How can the headline be more impactful? And concerning SEO performance, the coach provides insight to enhance articles' visibility. So it's about improving the article that have poor quality, which also has a direct effect on the ranking and make them, for example, hard to find due to unfavorable keywords. And Drive Coach is one tool to reduce the likelihood for articles to end up as a ghost article. So you learned a lot. So we have learned in the last 15 minutes that 80% of the articles do not justify the editorial efforts. And we used 3 strategies. The first one was user needs. When editors address their articles with specific user needs, they write fewer ghost articles. Through personalization, we can ensure that articles fully reach its audience. This increases the visibility and also the relevance of the content, and giving those ghost articles less chance to remain hidden. And lastly, we have artificial intelligence, which helps us to minimize the editorial effort on ghost articles. And we can free up a capacity and invest those in creating more high quality content, and then to boost engagement and also the reading time. And these are our way how we are coping with ghost. Now I'm curious how you are coping with ghost. Do you have, so we would like to have a feeling on that. Please write it in the chat.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Wow. And this was only like the 3 topics that you chose over like I don't know, there were like 8 or 10?
Yeah, 8, yes. But those are the topics that have the main effect on reducing ghost articles.
No, this is great. I'm sure people will have tons of questions. I have. So
yeah. The
okay.
right personalization, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Max. Hello, Max. It's nice to see you here. Great. Okay.
Then I will go over to you.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, this was super interesting. Let me share my screen. And boom, so you should be able to see my screen. So you already know my name, and off I go. So basically, yes, so I'm here and I'm going there. Fantastic. So there's this is like some kind of a quick introduction I wanted to make, basically, because I mean, we've been talking about, newsroom transformation for, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And it's always the same topic, right? In the end, I mean, I was at Helsinki a couple of weeks ago for in my innovation week, and in the end, it's always the same topic, right? And in the end, what brought digitalization is that we went from the importance of just being displayed in a newspaper to basically the importance of being read, right? And with digital, well, data came around, right? So in the end, we started to see that some articles, like him, just like told us that a lot of articles were basically not being read at all. So I wanted to have a clear idea on why do we have ghosts in the end. So Kim gave you already a pretty good definition. At Marfeel, we define it a little bit differently. Okay, so basically, directly inside our analytics platform, we give the possibility to our publishers to define the difference between what we call a good and a bad article. Okay, so we call them like healthy articles and weak articles. So basically, they define their own criteria. and we really focus on performance here. So we usually give them like the possibility to play with different KPIs, okay, and to put the threshold that they want. And basically what they're going to see is the percentage of healthy article that they write. And more or less, I mean, this is an example that I took completely anonymously, but we usually end up with the same kind of picture that Kim just shared, you know, like more or less 20% of your content is basically healthy, meaning that 80% of your content is basically ghost articles. So after that, obviously the platform gives you, you know, okay, you're able to drill down by lots of different dimensions. Obviously, you know, your different domains, your different sections, your different folders, etc., your different topics, your different user needs, etc. But the idea is like trying to understand why your story does not resonate with your audience. So basically, this is kind of the same you know, thinking process shared by Kim, but sometimes it's irrelevant issues. Okay, your stories are, you know, you did not publish them at the right time. The tone of voice is not the adequate one. Maybe there's a problem with the topics, but also it's also, you know, it's a problem of distribution, right? So it can be a matter of SEO. You're not promoting it in the right channels, and obviously, as Kim said and highlighted, personalization. You know, sometimes the content is not pushed to the right audience, right? So segmentation is always super important. So I wanted to focus on, you know, what's newsroom transformation today. And when I look at the, you know, the INMA definition for that, is that it says that basically newsroom transformation is less about processes and platforms, and I agree with that. And it's more about ensuring that journalism reproduced is actually relevant to your readers, okay? And basically what Inma is saying to us is that how do I, you know, how do I pass from a publishers to these kind of guys? Okay, how can I get rid of ghost articles? Marfeel is, you know, analytics platform, so we don't implement a methodology throughout our users, but we give them the tools basically to create their own workflows. So I'm going to present you like a typical workflow that you can do with Marfeel, but basically this is something that you can do with any tech stack, as I would say. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so I've only included like 3 steps. But basically, you can, you know, play a lot with these 3 steps, and you can add even more. And I will probably tell you at the end a few other things that you can explore. So the first thing is basically technical SEO. Okay, Marfeel is a tool that is really, really oriented also towards content performance, and SEO is a huge thing. Okay, and you know, at the end of the day, acquisition is a lot. Regardless of your business model, you need traffic. Okay, so to be able to have a technical SEO as good as possible is definitely key, I would say, and it's also, I would say it also ensures you that any editorial optimization that you might do after that gets the impact it deserves. Okay, so it's super important. I think it's the base. Obviously, editorial optimization to be able to cross the data. I mean, Kim already like touched that, but basically being able to identify, you know, your content opportunities is very, very important to be able to understand why do you have ghost and how you can basically try to not produce ghost articles and always produce content that is going to resonate with your audience. Another tool that you will be able to use in this workflow is obviously AI-powered editing. Okay, once again, I think it has been highlighted a lot by Kim, and this is today very important. We are having lots of conversation around AI. Is it good? Is it bad? Should I use it? Should I use it, you know, to generate content out of nothing or not? AI is here. Okay, it's a resource. You can use it as a support, as an assistant, but the power of AI lies in the data. Okay, and this is super important to have, you know, something by your side that actually gives you recommendation based on data. Data doesn't lie. So let me first focus on technical SEO, okay? So it's super important to make sure that your content gets good visibility. So I don't know what kind of tool you're using today. Maybe you're using, you know, SEMrush, maybe you're using, I don't know, your Google Search Console, but it's super important to have a website as Google friendly as possible that sends you alerts on things that are not abiding by the law of Google, okay? It's a shame when you have a good article, a good story that thinks and you think that it's going to resonate with your audience, but your audience cannot see it because it's not well distributed by browsers, basically. So it's super, super important to have that, well monitored, I would say. Here's a few of the most common errors we can see. So obviously at Marfeel, we see a lot of things related to images, but also structured data, okay? To give as much visibility of your content to Google is super important. Who basically has written the article, when it has been published, the keywords that are being tackled, etc. The section. So all the structured data needs to be as clean as possible. Okay. Another thing that is super important is obviously the performance of your website. Okay. So to be able to monitor what we call core web vitals is really, really important, especially for a channel like Google Discover, for instance, that relies heavily on that, and the EELT model is super, super important. Okay, so today, most of you, I'm sure you're doing it through the Google Search Console. You have probably an SEO or an audience team looking at it. Well, you can give them a big thanks, because I mean, it's a lot of work. Okay, and today with a tool like the Google Search Console is not easy at all. We have lots of things that could make their life way easier, like being able to identify directly in your pages through the CSS selectors, for instance, the pieces of code that are basically damaging a lot your website, and this is why you're not ranked well enough, or people like end up bouncing because they were never able to load your page properly. This is something that is very, very useful. Okay. So once you have everything in the green, your website is performant, it's fast, it delivers the best experiences possible for your readers, then you have basically the editorial optimization. So the idea here is basically to cross as much data as possible for you to identify content opportunities. Okay. So usually the questions is, hey, you know what? I have data in my tech stack, it's normal, but I want to understand what kind of content should I prioritize for audience development. Okay, let's, have first a strategy on acquisition, right? Even if you're like subscription based, everything starts with the top of the funnel, right? So obviously you're going to try to focus at first on topics where you have authority, on which subject do you usually get a lot of authority, a lot of audience, okay? And you're going to identify best practices within the topics you need to improve, basically, because you're going to see that some of your topics, you're doing a good job, and some others, well, not that much. And probably you're not going to stop writing about it, right? It's still news you need to cover. So it's important for you to identify these best practices. How can you improve, actually? And it's important after that to go even deeper and to check basically for any variable or any like content characteristics, I would say, that might help. So you're going to dive into sections and folders, content length, headlines, article publish times. Should I include videos, images? And if so, how many? What user needs do I need to basically use when I talk about, sports, politics, economy, finance, etc., etc. Okay. So for that, Marfeel has actually something that we call Optimize View. This is something that you can build on your own if you really have a good tech stack. Otherwise, this is, on Marfeel, this is super easy. This is one of the tools that is mostly used by the audience team, but also by the editors themselves. Okay. Basically, the idea is to, focus on a certain goal, and it can be whatever you want. It can be acquisition, it can be subscription, engagement, or monetization. But in this example, I wanted to take acquisition, and you're going to drill down basically every articles that you produced, okay, by any dimension, topics, user need, whatever. And you're going to try to compare that with the numbers of articles you actually produced. And you're going to create a simple ratio just for you to identify basically the efficiency to reach your goals. So here on the screen, you can actually see that on the first topic, which is Dresden. So basically this publisher has written a lot of articles, and they have acquired a lot of audience. That was my bullet point, which is my ratio is super, super high. But on the, on the other hand, I see like at the queue a lot of, topics I'm dealing with, I'm writing about, and we're not meeting expectation. Okay. So the idea is not only to write only content about Dresden, obviously, but maybe here the idea would be like to focus on, a few topics that are not performing that well. Okay. Because these are currently my ghost articles and I want to improve them, right? I want to be able to deliver some contents that are going to work actually. So you isolate one topic that is not working that well, and you explore even further, and you're going to see maybe this content is not in the right folder, and you can see that here they're basically most of the content is in one folder and it's not working at all. So maybe because of performance of your website. Here I wanted also to look at the length of your content. So apparently the longer is your content, the better. Okay, so when I need to tackle about this topic in particular, long stories and long articles are definitely better. I wanted to look also at the length of my headlines, so I can see that there's definitely a sweet spot for acquisition that was between 7 and 9 words, but this is definitely going to depend on the subject, on who's writing, on what kind of subject you're covering, and basically you'll be able to play with lots of filters. So you will be able to create your own content production strategy at your own level, and basically create always articles that are going to have an impact and not create ghosts, because you know how to write them basically. So you're going to cross information regarding all the different aspects of performance, acquisition, engagement, conversion, whatever you want. Identify obviously the user needs. Okay, there are some certain user needs that are better for acquisitions, some others that are better for conversions, etc. Okay, and the tone of voice that you're going to use when your articles are going to impact a lot on your objectives. Okay, and then you're going to dive in all the variables that you're going to find in your tech stack, sections, content lengths, headlines, etc., etc. And obviously capitalize on what you see. Okay, it's super important. Here I wanted to give you an example on which user needs do you need basically to increase engagement. So you can see the different user needs that Marfeel is identifying through tags basically, and we can see some champions for conversion purposes, and you could do exactly the same with acquisition purposes. Okay, once again here for subscription. Now, the last part of the workflow is basically AI-powered editing, okay? So for that, I wanted maybe, I'm going to try to click on it. I don't know if you're going to see the video, but I wanted to show you a little bit like something that we have.
Without the hassle, power up your content editing, distribution, and ideation experience with Marfeel Copilot. Say goodbye to time-consuming tasks after crafting your story. Things like generating headlines, highlights, leading paragraphs, or even addressing grammar and spelling errors. In fact, you can ask anything you need, anytime, anywhere. You can even ask that one annoying thing, linking. Get highly related stories, even contextually at the paragraph level, and magically link them in your story. Track the performance of your stories in a cutting-edge tool in your CMS. And actually, everywhere as you browse the internet, even when researching what's next, how you could cover a certain press release, a news agency piece, or even from an international outlet. Always be one step ahead of what might come next. Are you looking?
So basically here, I'm super happy to see that was like completely aligned with what Kim just said before, is that in the end, I mean, AI is here to help you personalize your content, to help you develop the content that is going to have an impact. Data is at the basis of it. So obviously Marfeel offers lots of things that make sense with their own data, but the idea is really to try to make you more sensitive to that kind of technology. Okay, this is very, very useful to avoid that articles are not being read at all, because you have all the power of your data, things that works, things that doesn't work, and you will be able to have all these suggestions from all different point of view, you should write basically in a certain tone of voice, a certain user need to tackle this. You will be able to position yourself compared to what's happening out there. This is very, very powerful, and you should definitely embrace this technology now, especially when it comes to ghost articles. Last but not least, anything else I can do to fight ghost articles? Yes, a lot of things. Actually, I think we didn't even, we talked about personalization, but yeah, you can write a story, but distributing it is a whole different story. Okay. And you have, to adapt your headlines, maybe to maximize the CTR, has different headlines, on Discover, maybe on social media, on your homepage, or, on different pages. Push obviously personalized recommended articles. You've seen the result the Drive initiatives can have on only geo localization, personalization. So this can be pretty massive, okay? And, try to gather information on all the distribution channels that you have, so you can basically share the right content with the right format to the right audience. And this is super important. You will be able to do that by crossing all the information. I don't know if you're using a data lake or not, but yeah, you will be able to do that with Marfeel or with anything else. So yeah, don't forget to really try to optimize all these distribution channels. And I think that with that, I am good. So we can go to Q&A. I don't know, Kim, have you seen any questions so far?
Yes, here were some questions. We also have user needs. I'm wondering, why did you use 5 hours as ghost article as benchmark, from Christina? So I think it's a question for me, right? Yeah, it's 5 hours because we assume that a journalist takes about 5 hours to produce an article. And we say if media time is under 5 hours, it's then a ghost article that has not provided that much value.
Okay, I see. Manuel, okay, yeah, because we have questions in the Q&A, questions in the chat. Okay, is there a difference between special interest media and broad interest media? Probably for you, Kim.
Yeah, I think it works also for special interest sector, but however, the user needs would perhaps look a little bit different. But the publisher can also choose by themselves how to develop the user needs and how to call them appropriately. So it makes also sense there. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Questions from Gregor. How many of your publishers are using user needs already? How did they implement it? My answer will be really, really fast. I don't have that information. I'm not working with the 250 publishers. I see that in Europe, it's something that is, very, very trendy. A lot of, publishers are, in current process of adopting it. But definitely not all of them. We work with lots of publishers in LATAM, for instance, in Spain, in the US, in UK, in Italy, in France. Not all the publishers are at that point yet. So I don't know if, it's because they're not as advanced as you can be with the Drive initiatives, for instance, but it's definitely not all of them. Kim, do you want to answer?
From our side, it's 20 publishers right now who are working with the user need model. And becoming even more each month.
That's good. They need it, trust me. Johannes, so your focus on KPIs or on audience on the website, as you mentioned, SEO, how did you measure the effect of lesser URLs per articles on authority or of topics? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the questions, but basically audience acquisition is an SEO is always a bit tricky. Okay, normally you have the feeling that you rely a lot on the browsers, on Google Discover, on the updates, etc. Okay, so a lot of our publishers are really focusing on that to try to keep as much control as they can. Okay, how do you do that? Basically by reinforcing your authority on certain subject. Okay, on some other subject, you don't have as much authority as your competitors. So here, what they usually do is use our monitoring tool to basically understand how the competition is covering certain topics. And I'm not going to say copy, but they try to get inspired by what they do to basically identify within other media outlets some best practices that seems to be rewarded, for instance, in Google Discover. Okay. What I can say is that publishing more articles is not necessarily a good idea. Okay. Obviously, if they are all good articles and they recirculate a lot and you get lots of internal clicks and they are shared through social media, you get a lot of dark social on it. Yes, the more good articles you publish, the better. Okay. But if you start publishing ghost articles on a certain topics, just to gain, to try to gain a good piece of share of voice on Discover, on Google search, but these are kind of ghost articles, it's going to penalize you a lot. So yeah, don't do it. It's more complex than that. Questions from Ole. There are examples of user needs by special interest publishers that perform well along the publishers that Dimitri Siskin has assisted in introducing user needs. Yes. Kim, how many user needs do you use? Is there like some user needs that are not relevant at all, or some others that are more relevant? Tell us.
I think that's 7 or 5, and mostly inspire me works very good, give me perspective. User needs were a kind of bad, but are also very helpful, or update me or educate me. Yeah.
Okay. With I mean, for Marfeel, the approach is a bit different. Okay, as we don't implement a methodology, the idea is to rely on tags, basically directly into your metadata, so you can work with as many user needs as you want. Okay, the copilot that I just showed you can give you like some, hints, suggestions, and recommendation based on certain tone of voice or understand user needs. But yes, it can be anything you want. It can be inspire me, update me, entertain me, educate me. It can also be, I have created one for my LinkedIn posts, for instance. So I have like a tone of voice for my LinkedIn post. So you can do whatever you want. Okay. This is also the power of AI and of analytics. So basically, after you can, fine tune any kind of methodology, make it a little bit like your own. But yeah, probably you will, I don't know, you might end up with, 5 main ones and maybe some residual ones that are working very well for you, but maybe not for others. So it is also a way to get some methodology on your own and personalize it even better with your own approach. Is there a difference between special? Okay, we did that one. How do you? I don't know. Did we cover the one from Manuel? Is there a difference between special interest media and broad interest media?
Yes, we had
Okay.
that already,
Oh, yeah.
but I've seen that. I forgot. Have you done an analysis on ghost articles depend on length? So Vincent, you have shown us some insights on that longer articles are less likely to be a ghost article. And from our research, we have the same. So an article which has about 400 to 500 words tends to be likely in ghost for 75%. And articles which are longer, around 1.5 or 2,000 words, the chance is only there by 50% that this become a ghost article.
Wow. I think we only have 2 left. How do you attribute user needs to an article, Kim?
We have 2 ways doing it. So the publishers can classify those user needs by themselves manually. And the other way is we have an automation process, so-called classifier, which is intelligent enough to classify the article by themselves, which user need this is.
Okay.
And what about you?
We don't do it. We just collect out of, like we basically, the technology looks a little bit the website the same way Google does. So as soon as you have like a user need in your metadata, let's say you publish an article on, the Brazilian election from yesterday, you're probably going to put like in your keywords like Brazil election and I don't know, something else, international, something like that. And if you wrote this article with the specific user needs, then probably, maybe it was a long paper and you want like people to be more educated on this, Brazilian democracy. So you're going to put like educate me as a keyword for you to basically after that be able to look at your data from a keyword perspective, but from a user need perspective. So you can put as many keywords and as many user needs that you want. If you think that on a particular article there is like 2 user needs, like educate me and update me, I don't know, maybe it was a live blog and there was like lots of also information on like last minute things, you can put 2 user needs and then we identify that out of nothing. You don't need to implement anything. So that's why combining methodology like Kim's and a technology like Marfeel becomes very, very powerful. I think we have actually some clients in common, and it works pretty well. The last question that I have, I think it's for you, Kim, is is it always easy to implement Drive within the newsroom? Do you have any resistance?
I think we have some resistance when it comes to the editorial teams. They, for sure, when it comes to change, not everybody likes a change, but due to our individual transformation process, we go along with the publisher to implement it. And what's very, very helpful is to integrate the team in those process. They will decide on what is happening and what should be changed and what not. And what's also very promising is when you look into the data, when you actually see, for example, if you are doing a test scenario and it really works, so everybody gets then motivated to really do it. But for sure, there are some constriction at the beginning.
I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think, you were already 5 minutes late. We will probably send you the recording if you want to share this with colleagues that were not able to attend, this webinar. Here in the chat, you actually have my email. I don't know, maybe you would like, the presentations, the slides, Kim's slides on my slide, you can contact me. I'll be more than happy to share those with you. And if you have any other requests, feel free to contact me. And just remaining just to say have a very good evening. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Kim. It was super interesting. I hope everybody liked it, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if needed. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kim. Bye bye.